welcome back. I'm the Book Guy, and I'm here to help you find your next favorite book. And I'm so excited today to be talking about the Green Bone Saga by Fonda Lee. And let me just tell you right now, this series is so freaking good. This is an urban fantasy with crime families, blood feuds, vengeance, magic, and kung fu. It's incredible. The whole time I was reading this series, I was constantly losing my mind at how good the writing was. Now, I thought I was a pretty good writer myself, but this series challenged me in 100 ways I could be improving my own writing. I won't say it shattered my confidence entirely. But it's always humbling to see such a masterwork, and this is a masterwork. That said, just because I love these books doesn't mean you have to. Everyone has different tastes. And honestly, there are a couple of things in this series that I have to admit may not appeal to everyone. So despite my undying love for all things Fonda Lee, I'm going to give you an objective, unbiased review of this series to help you decide if it's the right one for you. The country of Kacon just fought a war of independence to expel the colonizers and reclaim their country for themselves. They won their war largely through the use of Jade magic. If certain people wear Jade stones, it gives them greater speed, strength, and even energy manipulation. These Jade warriors are called Green Bones, and they're widely praised for freeing their country from foreign rule. One generation after the war, the Green Bone Society has become an unsettled world of constant political conflict. The former allies in the war have now been divided into Jade clans, each claiming a part of the country for their own and fiercely protecting their investments through any means necessary. Welcome to the Call family, the powerful crime lords that rule the No Peak clan. The No Peak clan now relies on the next generation of Call leaders, the three siblings, Lan, Hilo, and Shay. Lan, the eldest brother, is considered too soft to be a true Green Bones leader, showing mercy to his enemies and trying to make alliances instead of enforcing his rule. Meanwhile, Hilo is a warrior prodigy, yet is dangerously reckless and even bloodthirsty. And their sister Shay has left the country, trying to escape her crime family for good. But all three siblings are tested when their rivals, the Mountain Clan, begin to forcibly lay claim to new territory. The No Peak and the Mountain Clan were allies in the war, but now they represent the two greatest crime families in Kacon, almost like pseudo-governments unto themselves. As violence begins to erupt all through the Jade City, the Call siblings have to decide where their loyalties lie, and face the wrath of their greatest enemies. This is an urban fantasy series, which means the fantasy world is pretty much our own world with the names changed. So Kacon is like China. Their occupation by foreigners is similar to the real-life Opium Wars and the Century of Humiliation that followed. The war for independence is called the Many Nations War, which is a clever way of calling it a world war. There's even a country called Hispania, but this does not mean it is shallow world building, not at all. In fact, I would say this humble trilogy has some of the deepest world building I've ever seen. Let me explain why, and just heads up, I go overboard with this explanation.
So I tied an onion to my belt, which was the style at the time.
To create a realistic fictional world, a writer has to use multiple topics and fields of study. You know, topics such as history, geography, technology, economy, religion, etc. It's a big list, and it's impossible to include all of them while still telling an entertaining story, which is the real goal here. So usually, a writer will pick a couple of these topics to really focus in on, to give their world legitimacy. For example, Brandon Sanderson uses a lot of ecology in the Stormlight Archive with all the crustacean creatures. Stephen Erickson uses history and anthropology because he is an archaeologist and anthropologist. And Robert Jordan used a lot of world mythologies, etc. But there's a few potential pitfalls when choosing topics for world building. The biggest risk is that it's hard for a writer to talk about these subjects accurately. Hollywood movies often have inaccuracies because the experts weren't consulted and the writers made up all the stuff themselves. For example, the YouTube channel Gameology has those fantastic videos where experts react to their field of study in games and movies, and they usually criticize the inaccuracies. So if a writer tries to take on too many world-building topics, they're gonna start making mistakes. That's why they usually only pick a few. But using too few topics can also backfire. because then it leaves massive gaps. Some critics will say this writer used a lot of economy, but didn't use much geography, therefore it's bad world building. The truth is there's just a limit to how many topics you can realistically fit into a story. No one really wants to read a story that has the most realistic world building ever but no plot and characters. Well, almost no one. But the point is, good writing is about finding a balance. Just enough topics to create realistic world building, but not so many topics that it becomes distracting or inaccurate. And all of that to say, this was the most impressive thing to me about the Green Bone Saga. Just how many fields of study were used to world build. It's incredible, and I've never seen anything quite like it. This has the largest number of world building topics I've ever seen, while still being balanced with story. I'll explain how. So we see our two crime families, the No Peak and the Mountain Clan, fight hand to hand with magic and kung fu, yes. But they also fight economically, through business ventures, trade deals, exports and imports, that sort of thing. Later they fight through the government, working on elections to elect their preferred delegate, which will affect legal change and official policy that will suit their needs. There's also a religious aspect to Jade, so the clans have to fight each other in a way that honors the gods, or they might fall out of favor with the religious population. Speaking of, each clan has to have good public relations with the people. We also see technological advancements in how Jade can be used. There are military campaigns and mercenary actions. One clan even moves into the arts and starts funding Hollywood movies about Jade to help improve public opinion about KCON in other countries. And just to rapid fire a few more topics, we see world building on multiple cultures, post-colonization, national identity, immigration, philosophy, linguistics. The list just keeps going. The brilliance of this world building is that it's all relevant to the story. They're intrinsically tied to the plot, because each of these topics are part of the war between the two powerful clans. These fields of study are just the various battlefronts where the war is fought. This is the best part. It never feels like the writer just goes on a tangent to show off their world building skills, because it's all relevant to the war between Jade clans. That's why it's so perfectly balanced with the story. I know I over-explain the crap out of that, but I just love this part of the book so much because it really is a masterclass in how deep a world can be while still being focused on the story. Alright, magic system time. So the power of Jade increases a greenbow's speed and strength, making them lethal martial artists. And I love it. I grew up with a deep love of martial art films. I love Jackie Chan's Police Story trilogy and the Ip Man movies, etc. And I have done some Taekwondo training myself, but very minor. And anyone will tell you, Taekwondo is the least of all fighting forms. Yet from the very first fight scene in Jade City, I realized immediately this was real martial arts. This is not just martial arts as it appears to an outsider watching it. This really captures how it feels to perform it. So I was not surprised in the slightest when I googled Fonda Lee and found out she, yes indeed, does hold a black belt in martial arts. She could beat up all of us. We survive by her mercy.
I can beat you up, okay? And that's serious.
So practically speaking, what does real martial arts look like in a book? Well, for one, someone who's actually been in a fight knows how to capture the feeling of a fight. A real fighter will tell you, you are never invincible. You are never so skilled at fighting that you can avoid every single blow, because there's always the element of random chance. Also, real fights are very messy. Hollywood fights are often very cleanly choreographed, but if you ever watch a UFC fight, they are very random and spontaneous, and you very rarely get a big, clean, knockdown punch. Finally, a real fight will never do a big move when a little move will work just fine. Why do a big spinny kick when a simple front kick with perfect timing will work just as well? There's a cold efficiency to a real fight that isn't focused on looking cool. That's what we get here. As for the Jade magic itself, Green Bones can do some energy manipulation, such as deflection waves that will deflect bullets. They can read people's auras and see their emotions, and the more dangerous of the Jade warriors can affect the energy inside a person's body. Yeah, green bones make very efficient assassins. That said, not everyone can use Jade. Only Keikonese can use it. They believe their gods blessed them with Jade in ancient times. Yet even among Keikonese, only a few can use Jade. That's why they're called green bones, because it's believed that only those who have Jade in their soul and in their bones itself have the ability to use that power. For everyone else, Jade is extremely dangerous. It can alter brain chemistry, essentially turning you into a drug addict. Green bones have to spend years at academies to train to control their Jade, rather than let it control you. Because sometimes Jade does control you. Even experienced green bones sometimes fall prey to the madness. They develop the itches, which is a fate worse than death. And I'll leave you to explore that. Should be fun. That said, I have to warn you about something very important. We don't actually see that much Jade magic in the series. So there are action scenes and they are amazing, but this is not an action-heavy series. There's magic and fantasy, and the magic and fantasy is amazing, but this is not a magic or fantasy-focused series. That's why I said at the start that I love the series, but it may not be for everyone. This story is really about a crime family, and even more than that, it's about a family.
You don't turn your back on family.
This is a character-driven drama with some of the best character work I've ever seen. So if you're expecting big magic and non-stop kung fu action, you're probably going to be disappointed. If you look up reviews, the negative reviews for this series, most will say the same thing. They found it boring. Usually because they were expecting some more non-stop magic action. But I want your expectations to be in the right place. It's half the reason I make videos like this in the first place. Because if your expectations are not met when you read a book, you may assume it's because the book was bad. Often the book is fine, and we just had the wrong impression going in. So remember, going into Jade City, this is a story about character. The cool magic and action is nice to have, but the story doesn't rely on it to be interesting. I know I've prattled on a bit about world building and magic in this video, but let's actually look at the heart of what this story is all about. In an interview, Fonda Lee once said that she gets asked all the time if she was inspired by The Godfather. She says yes, she loved those movies, not because they were a crime family, but because they were a family. So despite all the crime, magic, and feuds between the clans here, this is ultimately a story about the Cole family. As usual, I'm going to take a look at three main characters to give you an idea of the quality of writing here. So the eldest brother is Lan, set to inherit the leadership of the clan. As I mentioned, he's considered too soft and his leadership is risky. The problem is that the older generation fought in a brutal war, so much of what Lan has been taught is irrelevant to peacetime. And yet, war of a different sort may be coming, and Lan's strategy of peace and diplomacy may not work anymore. Lan's story poses the question, can a morally good person run a crime family effectively? Will he have to lose his morality, or will he ruin the family? The younger sister, Shay, is the black sheep of the family. Now, she was arguably the smartest and one of the most talented greenbones in the No Peak clan. Yet she moved to another country, trying desperately to leave the crime family behind, and we don't really know why. Shay is perhaps the most complicated character we get because she keeps all of her feelings hidden. She's always loyal and determined, even when she appears unsure. Shay asks the question, is it possible to be part of a powerful family and still keep your own identity and live your own life? Shay has the biggest journey through this series and sees probably the most growth. Then there's Hilo, and oh my god, this guy might be my new favorite fictional character. Hilo is the muscle of the family, the best fighter, and the first to suggest the most violent course of action. He's a very direct guy. And make no mistake, he is a killer. But this guy has so many layers to him. He is deeply in love with his wife, and fiercely protective of his family. He may be stubborn, yes, yet he's also willing to obey his older brother Lan on literally anything without question. Hilo is full of little inconsistencies like that. It's what makes him so compelling. Another example is he loves his wife even though she's a stone eye, which is someone who can't use Jade. And she's from a poor family too, so she's the lowest of the low. Yet Hilo doesn't care about societal expectations. He doesn't care about your class, your clan, your creed, and your religion. He's open-minded as hell. He's an advocate against all prejudice. So long as you're Keikanese. Yes, this guy is so racially intolerant. It's like he put all of his prejudice stats into one category. Of course, this does make sense because Keikon only just gained independence from foreign rule. But yes, Hilo is how you write a morally grey character. There were times I loved him and times I hated him. I'll come right out and say it. Cole Hilo is on the same level as Walter White, Light Yagami, and Amos Burton. Maybe a level beyond. That's all I'll say about characters for time's sakes, but you should also know the villain is Ait Madashi. She's the leader of the Mountain Clan and is a contender for the greatest fantasy villain. When her father died, she straight up murdered everyone else so she would inherit the Mountain Clan. She is one cunning strategist and a brutal warrior, and she looms large over the entire story. Okay, confession, I spent forever trying to write this segment. I put it off till this late in the video because I just couldn't get it right. I couldn't do it without spoilers. There may have been a slight mental breakdown in the process. You see, the war between the No Peak and the Mountain Clan is full of the unexpected. At no point in the story do we know what the Mountain Clan is up to. There are so many surprises where they reveal they had an ace up their sleeve all along. So it's nearly impossible to discuss plot lines without revealing some of those surprises. So let me just explain the feeling of the plot. Yeah. Our heroes will put together a plan, and then the unexpected happens and they scramble to catch up. The plot lines here is a blend between plans and reactions. It's a lot like Batman vs. the Joker in The Dark Knight. It's a game of back and forth with many twists, each one trying to one-up the other. The brilliance of this back and forth is it creates a great deal of uncertainty. It makes us feel like death and failure is a possible outcome. There are moments of unbelievable tension. Sometimes, yes, we do get long plot lines of a character focusing on one strategy for some time. Other times, their plot is dropped real fast as something bigger comes up. If you do want specifics, let me just say at the start, Lan is trying to prevent the war, Hilo is preparing for it with a bit of glee, and Shay is doing everything she can to not get involved. But a lot of time passes in this series. The first book covers about 1 year, a very tumultuous year, as the three siblings find their place in the clan. The next book covers about 3 years? I think. I couldn't fact check that. The final book moves through time very quickly and shows the next generation of the Cole family. All up, we actually see about 30 years of the life of this family. During that time, the war between clans takes many shocking twists and turns. Again, I'm keeping this vague, although there is one specific thing I feel morally obligated to warn you about. Yeah, this part is rough. I hate to even mention this because it's like a spoiler to say there's tragedy, but yeah, there's just so much of it. I feel like you need to know. If you read this series, pain. Let's face it though, if you look at any family over 30 years, you will see a fair share of tragedy. That's life. Now imagine it's a crime family and multiply that tragedy by a factor of 10.
Never love anything.
As painful as the tragedy is, it also makes the moments of joy all the sweeter. There are big highs and big lows in this series, and the victories really feel earned. But again, I'll leave it there. Lots of representation in this series, so there's a ton of representation surrounding race, because race is a major theme of the book. Keikon has just gained independence, and everyone in Keikon is trying to figure out what their national identity looks like. We see race discussed through the eyes of immigration, as several plotlines focus on Keikanese communities in other countries, sort of like a Chinatown situation. We see some confronting depictions of racial prejudice and discrimination. These are important issues that are discussed to great effect here. There's heaps of gender rep. We have male and female representation in pretty equal quantities. Shay and the villain Madashi spend a lot of time facing gender stereotypes in their roles, as people underestimate them constantly for being women. It is a very 1950s worldview, and it's depicted with realism. LGBT rep is very high. A major character and later protagonist in the series, Anton, is openly gay. A large part of Anton's story is dedicated to his character, and exploring his sexual orientation is part of that character development. Anton encounters several other queer characters in his plotline, and the book never shies away from that, so big green tick here. As you would expect, there is a fair bit of violence in this series. There is a little bit of graphicness too, such as mobster executions. But it's never over-the-top violence, it's never gratuitous. There's a couple of sex scenes in each book. They're always quite short, but they also never shy away from showing exactly what's happening. It's none of those vague descriptions, it is at times quite explicit. There is also a fair bit of swearing and general adult content here. Is the ending worth it? Yes! Every book in this trilogy is on the same level of quality. That said, the third book, Jade Legacy, does a couple of big time jumps, and as such, because it's showing a wider period of time, it can be a little disorientating at first. But the book is still as good as the other two. Overall, it's still very rewarding to get to the end. And there's definitely a emotional final punch when you get to that conclusion. How much should you try? Well, Jade City is a terrific first book, so you can try that and you'll know right away if this series is going to be right for you. So, simple. Good luck, my friends, and happy reading. Thanks for watching. Now, coming up next, we're doing the Demon Cycle, followed by a look at Aragon and Murtagh. Then, I'm going to be introducing a bunch of indie authors who deserve more attention. Guys, if you haven't seen, my own 3 books are coming to Kickstarter on the 30th of September, so be sure to check them out and keep an eye out for more news on that. You can support my channel with a comment on the video, a subscription, or you can check out our shop or our Patreon. Otherwise, I will see you next time, and I hope you enjoy a good book today. Bye!